Iran retaliates. I'm Casey Hunt. Welcome to The Arena. An American airbase in Qatar coming under fire from medium and short-range ballistic missiles. Iran's supreme leader posting just moments ago, his nation, quote, will not surrender to anyone's violation. This video, released by Iran, reportedly shows the moment one of those missiles was launched. Iranian state media calling this operation, quote, blessings of victory. In a new post on his Truth Social platform, President Trump said that no Americans were harmed and that damage was minimal. He also confirmed that Iran gave advance warning that an attack was coming. The president adding that Iran had, quote, gotten it all out of their system, end quote. Al Udeid Air Base is America's largest installation in the Middle East. It's home to about 10,000 service members, and it's also the regional headquarters for U.S. Central Command. People at a shopping mall there in Doha running for safety upon hearing that Iranian missiles were headed toward their country. And this footage showing debris landing by the side of the road. It's unknown whether this is from an Iranian missile or a defensive interceptor. All of this coming less than 48 hours after American bombers and submarines struck 3 Iranian nuclear sites. A senior White House official says this retaliation was expected and that at this time, President Trump does not want more military engagement in the region. CNN across all angles of this story from around the world. Let's start at the White House with CNN Chief National Affairs Correspondent Jeff Zeleny. Jeff, of course, the question here, does it end with what we saw right now? Clearly, the president seems to be trying to send some signals that could be a possibility. What are you hearing?
There's no doubt that this message just sent a few moments ago from President Trump certainly signals what we've been hearing here for the last few hours, even as the missiles were being fired at the Al Udeid base outside Doha. There was a sense that President Trump and his team want to de-escalate, and this message certainly confirms that. Let's take a look at this and read it together, Casey. The president said Iran has responded to our obliteration of their nuclear facilities with a very weak response, which we expected, and have effectively countered. There have been 14 missiles fired, 13 were knocked down, 1 was set free. He goes on to say, because it was heading in a non-threatening direction, he said, I am pleased to report that no Americans were harmed and hardly any damage was done. Most importantly, they've gotten it out of their system. Interesting how the White House and the president would know that, because that certainly is an open question. But he goes on to say, I would like to thank Iran for giving us an early notice, which made it possible for no lives to be lost and nobody to be injured. But Casey, perhaps the most important part of this, if we could put this back on screen again, the president says this: perhaps Iran can now proceed to peace and harmony in the region, and I will enthusiastically encourage Israel to do this. So this is the first time we're hearing the U.S. president say out loud that he would like Israel to effectively stop its attacks on Iran. So certainly this would be significant. Iran has long said that they will not negotiate diplomatically as long as they are under attack. So we will see if this is anything more substantive than just the president sending out a message. But it certainly is a clear one that the U.S. is still looking for an off-ramp here for diplomacy. Very much an open question if that could happen. But there is no sign of a retaliatory response in exchange to the missile attack on Al Udeid. And ironically, the president was just on that base, the first president to visit since 2003. He was just there last month, spending some time with the troops there. So certainly that was top of mind as the White House Situation Room was watching those attacks unfold. But the president clearly taking a beat and certainly signaling a moment for diplomacy. Casey?
A lot of really fascinating layers there. And Clarissa Ward, it sets you up quite nicely in Tel Aviv, especially considering that line Jeff showed us about him almost encouraging the Israelis to make peace. What do you take away from that, and what do you think the Israelis will take?
Well, I think the Israelis have been projecting that they are starting to get somewhat close to the end of their operation in Iran. We heard from the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. I believe the phraseology he used, we are very, very close. Having said that, it was still a very busy day over Iran's airspace, with Israel launching a number of strikes, one of the heaviest days of strikes, in fact, as our Fred Pleitgen on the ground in Tehran saw for himself. But Israel feeling quite confident that they have now, in the claim of the Israeli Air Force is that they have destroyed roughly 50% or half of Iran's missile launchers. And it's interesting in terms of the reaction that we have heard, or the lack of real reaction we've heard towards Iran's attempted attack or missile strike on that base in Qatar. Basically, we heard the IDF spokesperson saying that it's another clear demonstration of Iran's hostility and violence, and the fact that it's not just a threat to Israel, but the whole region. I mean, that's what they're saying publicly. Privately, I think they're quite gratified to see Iran's response. They're assuming that if it is indeed one and done, so to speak, Casey, that's indicative of the fact that Iran is in a relatively weak position. And I should say, I've been talking to officials and experts around the region since Iran's response. And while publicly we're seeing the usual pro forma statements saying, condemning Iran's attack, privately you really sense a sense of relief, basically, that this was the least escalatory option that Iran could have gone with of all the options available to it, Casey.
Seems like a remarkable remarkable reality. And to that point, I mean, Christian Amanpour, Iran, of course, gave Qatar advance notice of the attack. The number of missiles that Iran used, the same number as the number of bombs that the U.S. used to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. What message do you take away there? They seem to be sending one.
Very clear messages being sent, and a very clear message back from the United States as well, that this was inevitable, that they had telegraphed, that they had no choice but to respond. The supreme leader of Iran, in the words of one analyst, was caught between saving face and saving his own neck. And they have done something that apparently the region and the United States expected. Apparently it could have been telegraphed, and it follows very much the same pattern as what Iran did when President Trump in 1.0 ordered the assassination of the Quds chief commander of the Revolutionary Guards, Soleiman Qasemi, or rather Qasem Soleimani. And they telegraphed that they would have to respond, and it was this kind of response that didn't cause significant damage nor injury or death to any American service people. So the big bottom line here is, and the overarching message, and being telegraphed from certainly the United States, is that let's get diplomacy back on track. And Iran, I spoke to the deputy foreign minister. You heard what the foreign minister said over the weekend. We understand they have no intention of pulling out of the NPT. They're not going to go rogue. They're not going to do anything like that, they say, and they want to get back to negotiations. They had said, of course, that they could not negotiate while under bombardment. And so this may be the minute that this stops. And if President Trump says that to the Israelis, although the Israelis have really been leading this fight, it was Benjamin Netanyahu's for decades, and he's done it. But I spoke to a very senior Israeli, the former Mossad chief, Amos Yadlin, today, and he said our goal was to set back, if not destroy, Iran's nuclear program. We have probably done it. We don't have a full BDA, but we in the US have probably done it, and now we have to get back to negotiations. He actually said there is no such thing as destroying a nuclear program from the air. It has to be diplomacy, and it has to be, worked out. I spoke to the former Secretary of State, John Kerry, who said the same thing, that he hoped that President Trump would take into account what Iran called the proportionality of its response and go back to the negotiating table. I spoke to an Iranian former negotiator who said very similar things, that, look, we have to work this out with negotiations. Of course, from their perspective, they thought they were in negotiations before Israel struck that Friday ago and before the US joined in over the weekend. But they believed that there'd been a framework offered to them by the United States, presented to them by Stephen Witkoff, the special envoy, and that it was one that was workable. I mean, In short, it's very similar to the nuclear deal as a temporary bridging method, and then willing, they said, to talk about the other thing that's been proposed, which is the consortium that the US and I think some Iranians have come up with, which would involve enrichment for a civilian program, but somewhere off the mainland of Iran. These are the plans, and we'll see whether they get a chance to work. But there is no way to fix this by military means alone, and diplomacy has to do the final job, including keeping inspectors in Iran to monitor everything that they do, which there had been under the JCPOA, Casey.
All right, Christiane Amanpour for us in London, Clarissa Ward in Tel Aviv, Jeff Zeleny here in Washington. Thank you to all of you.